Joe Montgomery with your educationlawyers.com news break, looking at an article from the ABA Journal. Hold the phone. K-12 school electronic device policies must be carefully considered, lawyers say. At least 8 states have tightened cell phone policies in schools, citing concerns like cyberbullying, distractions, and reduced face-to-face communication among our youngsters. Lawyers caution in this article against strict bans, emphasizing the need for fairness and accommodations when appropriate and necessary. Policies must consider special needs, emergencies, and student well-being. Overly harsh rules can lead to legal challenges and student anxiety. Balancing discipline with rights is key. Generally, I agree. Here's my take. Schools are tightening cell phone bans because cell phones don't help schools. Many, if not the majority of our cases that involve serious school incidents such as fights or assaults or sexual assaults and other things along those lines, we learn about them and we're able to prove these cases. It's easier for us to prove these cases when there's video documentation of what's happening and we can see what's going wrong in schools, and schools don't necessarily want this, right? I think, and I've seen, right? This is anecdotal, but I've seen schools punish students for recording fights because those fights get posted online and it looks really bad for the school. So, are the school's motives in this instance across these states, are they sincere? Are they really looking out for our students' well-being? Maybe and probably, because those are real issues, right? Cyberbullying, distractions, reduced face-to-face communication. But cell phones can be helpful in emergency situations, right? Lockdown type situations, I'm sure you're going to want your student to have a cell phone with them. What else can we do? Are there other ways to hold schools accountable without having our students be the journalists? Sure, better cameras in schools. It seems too often the case that when there's video footage that helps the school, it's 8K, highest, best quality video you've ever seen, zoom in, excellent audio, everything else. When there's potentially video out there that's exonerating for a student being charged with something, or it shows that the school messed up in some kind of way, all of a sudden the video is grainier, the camera wasn't working, that area is not an area that's monitored. I just see it too often. Am I imagining these things? I don't know, but I see it all the time, and I can tell you with over a decade of experience in education law, that's what I'm seeing, right? The videos that are the most helpful for students when we're advocating for students are generally videos that were filmed by that student or another student. Rarely is it the school's own videos. So something to consider. This is not going to be an issue that passed anytime soon. As technology develops, as phones take the shape of wearables, of course, watches and other stuff like that, there's even more opportunity for technology to make its way into the school. So I think there has to be some kind of compromise. I like this article. I'm happy that the ABA Journal is bringing light to this issue because it is an issue. We have a quote here in the article you can see. I'm immediately alerted if I hear that a cell phone policy is a zero tolerance policy. Anything that's zero tolerance is generally not well thought out, right? Especially, we see fight situations all the time where my student was bullied and bullied and bullied and bullied and beaten up. And then, one day they defend themselves and they're suspended along with the bully. Zero tolerance. Maybe it's the right decision, maybe not. But when it's zero tolerance, of course, we don't, by the nature of zero tolerance, have the opportunity to really look and reflect on what's going on. I agree with Nicholas Simpoulis here. I'm immediately alerted if I hear that a cell phone policy is a zero tolerance policy or if the discipline seems to exceed the violation. It makes sense. Zero tolerance policies are rarely the best option. We have another quote here that looks like a good one. Mark Terry, who represents school districts, emphasizes the importance of having clear policies that set expectations with both students and parents and consistent enforcement. That's what it's all about. Rules and policies that are clear and consistently implemented and enforced. In addition, Terry says administrators and faculty need to buy into a common approach. Maybe. I don't know if it has to be a common approach necessarily. I don't know exactly what he's talking about by a common approach. Every school, every situation can be handled differently. But I think that as schools have a little bit of give and take, as they up their own security cameras, because that's my main concern, right? Making sure students are safe, making sure if there is an incident and, you have a student journalist who's documenting the incident. They shouldn't have to, right? There should be other security measures in place. You'll rarely, if ever, find a security camera in the classroom, and that's generally a product of teachers, bargaining agreements, and unions and things like that. They'll cite FERPA, educational privacy issues, but in reality, what I see is that teachers kind of don't want a potential fox in the hen house watching what they're doing. Again, understandably, there's parent pushback. If parents are currently using cell phones to contact their children while they're in school, the school will need to be prepared to take over those parent to student communications and explain to the community how the process will work. I can understand, again, if your student has an Apple Watch and you send them a quick text during the day to check on them, that's one thing. But if your student's constantly leaving class and going to the bathroom because they're having issues and they have to call their parents, which again, we see it's usually manifestation of a larger problem. Why is the student not in class? Why are they trying to escape the learning environment? Why are they trying to get their parents on the phone? I think it's generally part of a larger issue that if those issues can be addressed, then the issue of needing a cell phone might not be as important. And then we have disability-related concerns, which are always important. Some students with disabilities or special needs have access to cell phone written in their special education plans. Their IEPs is what they're trying to say here, individualized educational plans or programs. For example, a diabetic student may require a cell phone to monitor glucose readings. Also, I've seen cell phones being a part of an IEP for assistive technology type uses, especially iPads, but cell phones also for recording notes that can later be transcribed and stuff like that, right? It's a phone, but it's 1,000 other things, right? You have to keep that in mind. Schools should have a policy in place addressing search and seizure on school property and make sure they're staying within constitutional limits when conducting searches of a student's cell phone. Now we're getting into the big question, right? If you do have a student hand over their cell phone, are you allowed to force the student to unlock their phone so that you can go through it? That's a bigger question that I'm going to answer today, and definitely dependent on the facts. But if you are ever in a situation like that where a school confiscates your child's cell phone and goes through that phone, I would absolutely suggest contacting a lawyer, whether one of ours at educationlawyers.com or somewhere else. That is something worth exploring. Whether or not the school has the authority or not, given your specific facts, that's something you should consult with a lawyer on. I'd really be interested in your thoughts and personal experiences on what you think about schools cracking down on cell phone rules, if you think it is in the student's best interest, or if you think schools are only trying to protect themselves.